Alex had never expected to feel so out of place. The sky of this alien world was not blue, not the gentle gradient of Earth mornings, but a shimmering mix of violet and silver that reflected off the glassy surfaces of the towering buildings. Everywhere he looked, there were shapes and colors that seemed to defy the logic he knew. He had trained for this, years of preparation, simulations, and studies. But nothing could truly prepare a human for the beauty and strangeness of a city built by beings entirely unlike him. The streets were alive, not just with motion but with energy. Humanoid figures moved beside creatures with 6 limbs, some floating on anti-gravity platforms, others crawling across the ground on dozens of jointed legs. Alien languages buzzed in the air, some harsh and metallic, others soft and melodic. Alex tried to absorb everything, to take mental notes, but he felt like a child lost in a dream he couldn't wake from. He had a mission, but the first moments were not about politics or science. They were about survival. He needed to understand the world, or at least appear to not draw unwanted attention. As he turned a corner, he nearly collided with a figure in silver robes. The being moved with such grace that Alex froze for a heartbeat, unsure if it had noticed him at all. "I'm sorry," Alex said, using the universal tone of apology he hoped would convey friendliness. The alien's large eyes, violet and deep, regarded him silently. Then a tilt of the head, a sound like a soft chime, and a nod. She did not speak in a language he could understand, yet somehow he felt a gentle acknowledgement. Her name was Lyra. He learned it later, through a translation device that could only do so much. There was a calm dignity to her, a quiet strength that demanded attention without asking for it. Her gaze lingered longer than necessary, and Alex felt, for the first time since leaving Earth, the curious pull of recognition, as if she could see him in ways no one else had. Over the next few days, Alex and Lyra kept running into each other. It began in small, accidental ways. He would bump into her in crowded market lanes. She would help him pick up something he had dropped, or point out a safe path through an unstable walkway. There was no direct conversation at first, only gestures and expressions. He quickly realized that for all her calm exterior, she was observant and patient, noticing things he often overlooked. Alex had come to this planet expecting diplomacy, negotiations, or research. Instead, he found himself thinking about someone in ways he had not thought possible. He noticed the delicate curve of her hands as she moved objects, the way her eyes flickered when she was amused, the gentle hum that escaped her when she examined a rare artifact. Small things, nothing extraordinary, yet they captured him completely. He tried to focus on his mission, reminding himself that this was not Earth, and emotions had little place in interstellar diplomacy. Yet whenever Lyra was near, logic seemed to falter. They shared a quiet walk through the lower levels of the city one evening. The lights reflected off the metallic structures around them, casting long shadows, and the twin moons above bathed everything in soft silver. "I didn't think humans would come here," Lyra said at last. Her voice, when he could understand it through the translator, was melodic, almost musical. Alex was startled not by the words, but by the ease with which she spoke. She wasn't wary or suspicious. She was curious, open, and human in ways he could relate to. "I didn't either," he admitted, unsure why he felt compelled to speak honestly. "I thought I would just do my work and leave. But did I keep finding myself here, with you?" He could not explain the weight in his chest, the way it tightened whenever she looked at him. Lyra paused, her head tilting slightly. She didn't speak, only watched him. Alex knew he had crossed some invisible boundary, yet he could not step back. There was something about her, something that made the usual rules of caution and restraint seem irrelevant. Days turned into a rhythm. Alex and Lyra would meet in the marketplace, walk along canals that glittered with bioluminescent liquid, or sit by the edge of cliffs that overlooked sprawling cities. They learned from each other in silence as much as in words. Alex discovered that Lyra loved stories, simple human tales of courage, humor, and folly. He shared what he could, mindful of the alien nuances that sometimes caused her to tilt her head in confusion, then laugh in delight when he explained further. One evening, they found themselves in a quiet grove on the outskirts of the city. The air smelled of strange blossoms, and the sky overhead was painted in streaks of orange and silver as the planet's sun began to set. Alex felt a sudden, overwhelming urge to tell her the truth he had carried in his heart for days. I love you, he said, his voice almost a whisper. The words felt both terrifying and liberating, slipping out before he could second-guess them. Lyra froze. For a moment she did not move, did not speak. Her large violet eyes glistened, and then a single tear ran down her cheek. Alex's heart skipped a beat. He had expected shock, perhaps anger or confusion, but not this. Not a tear, Lyra, he asked, reaching out instinctively, though unsure if he should. She did not step back, nor did she take his hand. She simply stood there, letting the tear fall, and looked at him with a depth of emotion that left him breathless. I didn't know, she said finally, her voice trembling slightly through the translator. I didn't expect... She could not finish. Alex could see the conflict in her expression, the surprise, the sorrow, the something he could not yet name. He tried to speak, to explain, to reassure her that he meant no harm, that he had simply spoken what he felt. But words failed him. All he could do was stand there, silent, hoping she understood the sincerity in his gaze. The rest of the evening passed quietly. Lyra said little, walking beside him without touching him. Alex noticed the subtle signs of her struggle, the tightness of her shoulders, the way her hands fidgeted. He understood then that this was more than a simple response to a confession. This was a complex emotion, layered with memories and experiences he could not yet see. Over the next few days, Alex gave her space while remaining nearby. He observed her from a distance, noticing how she interacted with her world, how she smiled gently at friends and elders, how she carried herself with quiet dignity even when burdened by what he now guessed was a painful history. He could not stop thinking about her. Her tear had not been one of rejection but of something else, something deep and meaningful he could not yet comprehend. Alex realized that this world, this city, this being named Lyra, was teaching him something fundamental about connection. Humans had the ability to love openly, to risk vulnerability, and perhaps that was exactly what she needed to begin to trust again. One evening, he followed her to the edge of the city, where the cliffs met the glowing rivers below. She stood silently, gazing at the horizon, lost in thought. Alex stepped closer, careful not to startle her. Lyra, he said softly, I didn't say that because I wanted something from you. I said it because I couldn't keep it in. You matter to me, more than I expected. She turned her head slowly, her eyes meeting his. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then slowly she nodded, a small gesture that seemed enormous in its significance. It was not acceptance, not yet, but it was acknowledgement. She allowed him to exist in her presence without fear, and that was a beginning. As the moons rose higher, casting silver light across the valley, Alex felt a sense of hope he had not anticipated. This planet, this alien life, and this singular woman had changed something in him. It was not just about discovery or diplomacy anymore. It was about connection, trust, and courage. He did not know what the future held, nor did he know if Lyra would ever return the feelings he carried so openly. But he understood one thing with absolute clarity. Sometimes, the bravest act was simply to speak the truth of one's heart, even when the outcome was uncertain. And as they stood there, side by side, a silent understanding passed between them. It was fragile, delicate, and easily broken, but it was real. And for the first time since stepping onto this alien world, Alex felt that perhaps he had found something worth fighting for, worth risking everything for. A chance at a connection that transcended worlds. Alex could not stop thinking about Lyra's tears. He had confessed his love, expecting surprise, maybe hesitation, but not the depth of emotion that had crossed her face. The memory of that single tear haunted him, and he felt a pull to understand it, to reach her in a way that words alone had not. He knew he needed patience, yet the urge to help her carry whatever burden she had was almost unbearable. For days he observed her quietly from a respectful distance. He saw how she interacted with others, gentle yet cautious, polite but reserved. She smiled at children and elders alike, yet there was a distance she did not allow anyone to cross. Alex began to realize that her sadness was not simple. It was layered with history, experiences, and perhaps loss he could barely imagine. One morning he found her at a small shrine outside the city, carved into the cliffs overlooking the glowing rivers below. She knelt in silence, her eyes closed, hands hovering above the surface of the stone, almost as if she were speaking to something unseen. Alex watched, hesitant to interrupt, sensing the weight of the moment. Finally he approached, Lyra, he said softly. She turned her head slowly, acknowledging him but not speaking. The translator hummed softly, but she said nothing aloud. Instead, she gestured for him to sit beside her. For a long time, they remained in silence, the hum of the city below faint compared to the quiet intensity of the shrine. Then finally she began, "My people, we remember everything," she said. Her voice was soft, filled with an emotion Alex had not heard before. Every joy, every loss, and some memories. Some memories are too heavy to bear alone. Alex listened, sensing the truth behind her words. Even if he did not fully understand them, he did not interrupt. He simply let her speak, hoping to offer the comfort of presence. "There was someone, long ago," Lyra continued, her gaze drifting to the horizon, "a human. He came to our world. He taught us kindness. He showed me a world beyond fear, beyond rules. I loved him. And then he left. He promised to return, but he never did." Her voice broke slightly, and Alex could see tears brimming in her eyes again. Alex's chest tightened. He reached out gently, placing his hand near hers, careful not to touch without permission. "Lyra, I am here now. I'm not leaving." She looked at him then, really looked at him, and for the first time Alex saw the full weight of her emotions. The grief, the hope, the fear of trusting again. You do not know what it is like," she whispered. To believe someone could care only to be left behind. To expect love and have it taken away by fate, Alex nodded. "I don't, but I can try to understand. And I can be here for you. That is all I can promise." Lyra's hands trembled slightly. She had not expected someone to say that, not with sincerity, not with courage. Many humans had visited, few stayed, and almost none had truly tried to see her world as she experienced it. He had taken a risk, opening his heart so openly, and she realized it was something she had almost forgotten, that some humans could feel so deeply and care so selflessly. In the days that followed, they spent more time together but differently than before. It was not just exploration or casual walks. Alex became a witness to her past, helping her recall stories she had not shared in years. She showed him old holographic recordings of her city, places that had been destroyed, friends and mentors long gone. Alex listened, learning not just her history but her resilience. She had survived heartbreak, loss, and disappointment, yet still carried hope within her. One day, while walking through the lower levels of the city, Alex noticed a group of young aliens struggling to lift a heavy container. Without hesitation, he stepped in, using his human strength to help them. Lyra watched from nearby, a soft smile forming on her face. "You do not understand," she said later, as they sat overlooking the glowing river. "How rare it is for someone to act without expectation. Many come here for knowledge, for power, for curiosity, but you act because you care. And that it is remarkable." Alex felt a warmth in his chest he could not explain. It was one thing to feel love, another to have it acknowledged and understood. For the first time, he realized that humanity's strength was not just in intellect or technology, but in empathy, in the willingness to open oneself to another being. A week later, a sudden crisis erupted. A hostile faction from a neighboring sector attempted to seize control of part of the city. Buildings shook, alarms rang, and panic spread like wildfire. Lyra was caught in the middle, trying to protect others, but clearly overwhelmed by the chaos. Alex did not hesitate. He ran to her side, using both his physical skill and quick thinking to help her and the civilians escape danger. They found shelter in a secluded chamber beneath the cliffs. Lyra's breathing was heavy, her eyes wide with the shock of the near attack. Alex reached out, gently holding her hand this time. "It's over. You're safe," he said. Her tears flowed freely then, no longer restrained. But these were not tears of sorrow alone. They were relief, gratitude, and the release of long-suppressed emotions. Alex held her, silently letting her cry, understanding that this moment was more than a response to fear. It was an opening, a breakthrough, a trust he had earned through patience, courage, and love. When she finally composed herself, Lyra looked at him with a clarity that had been missing before. I have not allowed anyone to see me like this for a long time," she admitted. "Not since he left. Your words, your actions, they are different. You are different. And I am afraid. But also, I am grateful." Alex smiled gently. "Fear is natural. but you don't have to face it alone anymore. Days passed and their bond deepened. They explored the alien city together, but now their interactions were richer, filled with understanding and mutual respect. Lyra began to open up more, laughing freely, sharing her thoughts without hesitation, allowing Alex glimpses of the person she had been before tragedy struck. Alex in turn shared stories of Earth, his home, and the humans he had known. He did not just speak of the good, he spoke of failure, mistakes, and vulnerability. Lyra listened intently, fascinated by the emotional courage that humans could possess. One quiet evening, they found themselves back at the shrine where their conversation had begun. Lyra knelt again, but this time she did not look weighed down by memories. She spoke softly to the stone, but her words were lighter, tinged with hope rather than sorrow. Alex sat beside her, offering silent support. Then she turned to him, her violet eyes shining. I cried not because I feared you, nor because I doubted your words. I cried because I had almost forgotten that someone could care so completely. I cried because your heart, your human heart, reminded me that hope still exists, that love is possible again. Alex felt a surge of emotion, a mixture of relief, joy, and awe. He realized that their connection went beyond species, beyond worlds. It was something universal, the courage to be vulnerable, the ability to care deeply, and the choice to trust. I love you, Lyra, he said again, softly but firmly, not just for what you are, but for who you are. And I will not leave, not now, not ever. Lyra reached out, finally allowing him to hold her hand fully. She smiled, a genuine, radiant smile that lit her face in a way Alex had never seen. Then, perhaps it is time for me to trust again, she whispered. Together they stood, looking out over the glowing city and the rivers that reflected the twin moons. The danger had passed, but the lessons remained. Alex had learned about resilience, patience, and the power of love. Lyra had learned that it was possible to open her heart again, to let another being in, and to accept that human emotions, though different from her own, could be genuine and transformative. As the moons rose higher, casting silver light over the city, Alex and Lyra walked side by side, no words needed between them. The bond they shared was more than affection. It was understanding, respect, and the kind of trust that transcended planets and species. It was humanity at its best, meeting alien life at its most profound. And in that quiet, silver-lit moment, both understood that this was only the beginning. Love, courage, and connection had found a way across the stars, and nothing could break it.